Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Film Family. Today we're going to be talking about the new film Bad Boys for Life with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. So I guess we'll just get straight into it.
Yeah, I actually enjoy the first two Bad Boys quite a bit. I haven't seen them in a while, and I don't really plan to watch them again because a lot of people say they're bad upon rewatch, and I feel like I might actually not like them just because they have certain Michael Bayisms. But last time I watched them, I had a great time, and I've seen them both probably like twice, and I just think they're a lot of fun. And I think this, as a threequel, does a decent enough job at continuing the story, but I don't think in a lot of ways it lives up to the first two.
I like the first two. I've seen them a lot of times. They're action movies with comedy. I'm not going to say that they were fantastic, but I feel like I can still rewatch them and they still kind of hold up, but I also don't have as high expectations. But for this one, I feel like the writers need to get in trouble because I'm going to talk a lot about this movie, and all of it is on the writers' shoulders. It's mostly their fault for me.
Nice.
Nice.
When it comes to action movies, my bar is pretty low. For a sequel or trequel, all I need is kind of the same basic elements in there, the same people in there, and so I was pleasantly happy with what they provided us. And this is a non-spoiler review. It's going to say that as well, but I'll probably be on the other side of the fence for a lot of this, just because.
Yeah, I feel like I'm a little bit in the middle then, because I didn't hate this movie, but there's not a lot to love about this movie. I mean, the first two Bad Boy movies, you're only gonna like as much as you lean into what they are.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, there are certain jokes in those movies that are pretty immature, but so is there in kind of every Michael Bay movie. You know, and if you have fun with that and you just watch the stars' charisma, which they have a lot of, you're gonna have a good time in that movie. And this movie tries to bring a little more dramatic weight to it and take the subject matter a little more serious. But the subject matter is inherently not silly, but it's not something to take serious. It's cops. They're having fun. They're in Miami, which is like the last city you're gonna make this gritty, drama about Miami, cop life. Yeah. And this movie isn't that. But it's just that I think this movie loses some of the ability to entertain as the first two movies had.
Nice.
I felt like this movie tried to make everything a moment. Every scene with someone else was like, get the tear in their eye type of thing and like really drag it out. And then the rest of it was, in my opinion, was actually disappointing action because it didn't hold up to the Bad Boys 2 and Bad Boys 1 for me. But I felt like this movie, I felt like it was, again, my whole problem is with the writing. Because I feel like the sets looked really good. The cinematography was good for an action movie.
Looked a little,
you know what I mean? But
video.
What?
It was a little music video.
It's an action movie, you know what I mean? But so it doesn't have to look like fucking freaking fantastic.
I mean, it did look like the first two Bad Boys, I guess.
Yeah,
especially
pretty
the second
consistent.
one.
But and then
I
Will
respect
Smith, Jonathan didn't really like his acting. I didn't think that it was so bad or so atrocious. But I just the lines were so bad in this movie. You're gonna have to. Can I say it?
Yeah.
You're gonna have to miss me with that.
Oh,
that was such a bad line.
You got. All right. You got to give like two more before this video's over.
Bad lines?
Think well.
Okay, I will even think about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like you can see some of the humor from the first two, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but they're not as good as like dumb humor as Michael Bay, you know? And Michael Bay has some abilities that are actually good, and I'm going to talk about that a little later. But just in terms of a humor, I don't think this movie made me laugh as much as the first two.
Yeah, see, I think for me, like, I connected with the humor a little more. I don't think it was hip humor. It was kind of old man humor in a way. You had to be invested in Martin Lawrence and Will Smith. Like, it kind of, like, aged with them in a way. Like, I still remember Will Smith and Martin Lawrence from their TV shows as well, and I think the newer generation, you see him on celluloid, but it's like, I mean, Martin basically is reappearing from a long hiatus. But yeah, I mean, there's certainly some jokes that definitely missed, but for the most part, it kind of, I really appreciated it in terms of the jokes that were told.
I mean, I also think this movie, I guess I'm going to transition to the action because it's obviously a big staple of the Bad Boys. They do plenty of property damage. They would have been fired 5 times over by now.
At least.
Maybe
in
10.
jail.
Like, damn near. But there's two things I think are important to look at when this movie's action. Is one, the R rating. I think this movie tries to be R-rated a little more than the first two. The first two are kind of just naturally R-rated. This movie feels like it's a little bit trying too hard. But one thing that I think this movie's missing, and I've never heard myself say this sentence before, is missing the Bayham. It's missing the Michael Bay ability to
mayhem.
make mayhem.
Yeah.
The guy who earned the title, who made the name, he has earned it for a reason. And Michael Bay knows how to make an action sequence. There's been plenty of stuff said about Michael Bay's abilities as a director and a filmmaker and a storyteller, and I'm not sitting here saying
Say what you want. You can
I
blow
love
something up.
I think that Michael Bay's passion for action sequences is palpable when watching his movies, and I enjoy that. And if you watch him on set for a lot of his movies, specifically the Transformers ones, a lot of times he's right in there with his camera people, and apparently he's kind of difficult, but I mean, he's in there, he's holding the camera, he's blowing stuff up, he's next
involved,
to the pyrotechnics guy, you know? And I respect a director who's gonna get in the nitty gritty. They're not above their crew. And again, this movie doesn't have bad action, but it doesn't ever reach the Bayham heights. The chase from the first one in the hotel, the freeway chase from the second one, the pool house shootout, or not the pool house, but you know, the big compound shootout from the second one. It doesn't ever reach that. And it tries to, and I see that, you know?
Okay.
I have the 2 other lines if you're interested to hear them.
All right, go ahead.
So the other one is where he's like, come on, Cap, you know I shot some people. I felt
that wasn't actually bad.
It was them trying to make a funny joke that just didn't really land that well.
Okay.
And then the other one, worst line, besides, you're
not
going to have to
spoiler,
miss me
right?
with that. No, it isn't, because I don't remember the characters' names.
Okay.
So it's when the female cop was watching the surveillance video, and she says something like, oh, I'm going to have to kill her, or something like that.
That was bad.
Oh, that wasn't good.
Yeah.
That was pretty bad. I mean, yeah, there's some corny lines, but again, like, Bad Boys kind of corny. The movies were made to have fun, and something I will say is that even though they do try a little bit too much to dramatize the story, the actual character, you know, interactions between Martin Lawrence and Will Smith, even when they're dramatic, feel authentic, and I appreciate that. The idea of old age is obviously prevalent in this movie, and you know, they even make some funny jokes about it that I laughed at. But I think that it's not one of the weaker parts, because there is some drama in this movie that, especially stuff with Will Smith's character, just him, that I can really say that I just felt nothing for, but I liked their relationship throughout the whole movie.
But that's where I feel like it's a writing problem.
Yeah.
Because the acting between them was really good, but it was just the dialogue and the way they were talking about it was missing me.
What do you guys think in terms of, like, because you guys did watch the other ones and I did as well. What do you think about the chemistry? Did they rekindle that in terms of, like, did it seem like they didn't miss a step in that way?
I think so.
I felt like they were trying to, they rewatched the movies and they were taking notes, like, what's the formula that made these right? Guns? Brothers? Put it in there.
Exactly. I mean, sometimes you see, like, a third movie or maybe even a second movie lose its director, and some people might say, oh, if they have the same writers or the same producers or whatever, it'll be just as good. But sometimes a director is just, they purvey everything that the movie has, from the tone, from the what the movie should look like, and just they have a certain vision for the movie that cannot be recreated.
Yeah, chemistry.
And again, Michael Bay, I'm not a huge fan of his, but I really think he did a great job with the first 2 Bad Boys.
I love his action stuff. Yeah,
and I feel like in this movie, I mean, I think they were both pretty good in this movie. I liked Will Smith more in this movie. I think Martin Lawrence was good, but I think a couple times he had a little bit of the ludicrous syndrome where he just yells obvious stuff and kind of expects you to laugh. And I don't mean that to insult him, because he's a good comedic actor. I just think, like you said, the script was making certain jokes that I was like, he's better than that, you know? And not that the first 2 movies have extremely mature humor, they were just jokes that I felt like were better made and placed in for those actors to deliver, you know?
got it. Interesting. Okay.
I know we're not doing spoilers, but the ending of this movie, I feel like, really messes up the first 2 for me. Because in the first one, you have an intro to the characters and who they are and why they are the way that way, but then this ending changes it, and it tries to throw something else in there to add another layer of, like, complexity. But it was just, really? That's what you guys thought of?
And there's some corny stuff in this movie too, like dramatic wise.
Yeah.
And then he's like, and then, okay, I'm not gonna say. I was gonna
Be
spoil
careful.
something.
Tread lightly.
I mean, there's some spoiler stuff that's kind of lame, and you know, some people might like it. It's just one of those things that I was watching and I started kind of having a thought, and then it started like snowball affecting, and I started thinking about a bunch of other stuff in Hollywood movies in general, and writing problems that I just generally see, and just some of the lazy ways that movies create drama without actually ever trying to make something that feels like drama. But actually, no, they are trying to make something that feels like drama, but it isn't drama, you know? And that was something that watching it for me started to make me just think about Hollywood movies in general. And thankfully, this movie has a Will Smith and Martin Lawrence to make it more fun. But if these two actors weren't in it, and it was just a movie with this script and two completely uncharacters, this would be like a pretty bad movie. Like this would probably be a 4 out of 10, maybe 3.5. You know, but they bring it up because of their chemistry.
Definitely. I mean, I love 80s and 90s movies, as you guys know, especially action movies. But yeah, I mean, there were very much parts that were cookie cutter in a way, and there's actually, can't spoil it, but there was 2 parts that I actually predicted were going to happen way before they happened. And I was like,
I know what you're
and I was very upset that I had predicted it, and I was, but we can't talk about that. But it's just, that bothered me because I felt like they did take stuff from different formulas and stuff like that. I heard a joke from like another movie that was kind of revamped.
I feel like the captain's lines were reused. I feel like they, you know, he almost says the exact same
that dude's a really
stuff.
good actor, and I like him, but in this movie,
His character was pretty underused.
he just
weak
felt
in
like
this.
kind of bland to me. You know, he wasn't.
Well, I
quite as
loved
interesting.
him. Yeah, that's good because
He was fine. I just don't think he was as good as the first two.
Okay.
You know, and some of the, like you said, some of the jokes even were just predictable. Like there was a scene after this action scene, and he's like, "Oh, did this happen?" And I was like, "Watch him say this." And I literally said the line word for word, and I was like, "That shouldn't happen."
Yeah, that should never
maybe hit
happen.
The ballpark, but
Yeah, you should be close. But
yeah. And
But did you guys see my motorcycle in the movie?
no,
Oh, you didn't? It's the one with the sidecar. That's the one I have. I don't have a sidecar. But
Yeah.
Really?
I was happy about that, and I thought that was a cool scene. It was like, this is a, you know,
yeah, interesting.
can't say it.
but
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's some of the action. I mean, some of the editing is kind of weird too. Like there was one shot. I even tapped you. I was like, Taj, did you see that?
Yeah.
It was a weird edit, and I was
Yeah.
like, I don't know how that got into this movie. But just the look of the movie in general, action wise, and just how the scenes are filmed, and even some of the regular scenes, it looked a little too music video-ish to me. And I get that's kind of how Bad Boys 2 looked, not really 1.
Yeah.
But I feel like this movie could have risen above that a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
I have a problem too at the end of the final bad guy scene or the boss scene, if you want to say. If you look at their guns when they're firing, the handgun is actually not cycling, and the muzzle flash looks so bad. Like if you gave me 20 minutes on a Final Cut or whatever, I could have done a better job. And I was like,
Muscle Flash has been getting worse. Speaking of another Will Smith movie, Gemini Man, actually, and I'm no gut expert, I know nothing about them, but like just watching it, it looks so CGI, and I'm just like, you know, you can just get blanks around.
James said that this movie was very Gemini Man-esque.
Well,
He didn't say it was as bad, but he said that,
I was gonna say,
especially with the ending, it felt similar to it.
Oh man, it kind of does.
You know, it's like
No, you know,
it's
no.
2 in a row.
I will not insult Will Smith like that. This movie is way better than Gemini Man. Honestly, again, it's a fun movie, and I was actually going to make this point as one of my last points of this movie. I was happy doing this movie because I started to have these thoughts about Gemini Man creeping back in my brain, haunting me, you know. And I'm sitting there like, I'm glad this movie's not as bad as Gemini Man because I didn't like Aladdin, I didn't like Gemini Man. Was he in the 3rd movie last year? I don't know. He's been in some bad movies recently, and I was like, "Oh, Will Smith, like you're good." And then I saw this movie, and I was like, "You got it. You know, you picked the right movie." And even if this movie isn't like strong, like some of his best, it's better than Gemini Man and Aladdin because it doesn't at least just feel like some cookie cutter movie.
Yeah. If there's a Bad Boys 4, would you guys?
I mean, okay. Again, this is a thing that I think a movie should, when it says something, should stick to it. This kind of frustrates me. He literally says, "All right, like I'm not gonna help you out," and then some stuff happens with the plot. Also, the trailers completely make that dramatic just tension completely non-existent.
You know?
That's the problem with trailers in Hollywood anyway.
Yes,
but
it
whatever.
is.
And he's talking to me. He's like, "All right, I'll help you. This is a big deal." And he's like, and of course the famous 3 words said in 2 different franchises: "One last ride."
Yeah.
Let's get this done. Bad Boys 4. If you've heard One Last Ride before, it's because you might be having Fast and Furious syndrome when they have been saying that since Fast 5. We're about to have a 9th one.
Mm-hmm. And they have a contract till 10, by the way.
There you go. We'll get 2 more. That's just with the contract. So what I'm saying is, if you are to say, this is it, this is, you know, this is our last straw, this is our final battle, and then say, well, not really.
Yeah.
I just think
depends
that
on how much money it makes.
Yeah, depends.
That's it.
Isn't that a movie line where he's like, "Are you gonna stop?" He's like, "Depends. How much are you gonna willing to pay me?" It's like that one of those things, you know. But I don't know. I think that it's just overall a decent movie. One thing, all right, I want to talk about one last thing. Is the pans in this movie started to annoy me, and you know, again, this is a personal taste thing, and just how movies are filmed. if the directors disagree, that's cool. There's so many pans in this movie, from scene transitions to just camera movement, that was literally infuriating me, because it will be on like, you know, this computer, and you will see the actor walk up to it and they'll just do a sharp pan. I was like, there's no reason to do that. You can let him come on frame, or you can just do a smooth pan. And then they got carried away. There was like 5 pans per scene. There was like a club shot, and it was like upstairs, and it switched to downstairs. But the way it was shot, I was like, that just doesn't look good. And it got overdone. There was way too many pans in this movie, to the point where I was like, it's like a gimmick when you do a bunch of Dutch angles and you do it. It's like the Thor thing. When you do it too much, people aren't going to want to watch anymore. That's why special camera techniques are special, you know?
Got it. So like very music video-ish.
Yeah, exactly. Again,
Speaking
music
of,
video-ish.
I actually like this shot, but it is very music video-ish. It's the one last time where they pull out.
Yeah, that was so music
You
video.
know,
The
but-
music played.
yeah, and they had the perfect location.
Yeah.
They show all of Miami.
That was fine.
It had to be a drone, right? Because a
That
helicopter
was a
would have
drone.
created
That
way
was a
too
drone.
much wind.
Yeah, I think that's-
I mean,
what I was
you
thinking.
can CGI that stuff out. I just think it was a drone because it's 2020. People overuse drones. You know, we need to stop with that. Too many drones in movies. But yeah, those pans got to a point where I was like, please stop panning. It's so, like, you noticed.
Yeah.
The fact that we all noticed says something. You know, I should notice a pan, but there was like at least 30 different sharp pans in this movie. There was like 5 in one action sequence. You should have maybe 1 every 2 action sequences. So yeah. You guys have anything else to add?
Not really. Not really. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna say that because of a couple scenes in this movie that made me laugh. There was one running joke too with one of the cops that was actually pretty funny, and you know, because of some decent action, I will give this movie a flat 7 out of 10.
I like the Bad Boys movies, and to be honest, I wouldn't have seen this movie in theaters. So because of that, it's below a 7. So I'm going between a 5.5 and a 6, because if I'm gonna watch a Bad Boys movie, it's gonna be 1 or 2 before this one again.
Oh
to be
wow.
honest.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I'm gonna rate it higher than all you guys. I actually like that I saw it in the theater. We saw it in IMAX.
so did I. There was like
Yeah.
nobody in my theater.
Yeah, and so I don't know. I mean, any kind of destruction, any kind of blowing up, any kind of sound and stuff like that, I feel like it should be a theater experience. Just seeing Martin and Will Smith together again kind of was nostalgic for me, and I didn't think it was ever going to happen. It's been, you know, a long time in coming. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you love them and you love the chemistry between them, and you like either or, you probably will enjoy this movie. You know, if you compare it to the others, you might get a little disappointed, but if it's something where you just want to see them again, then you'll probably enjoy it. So yeah, I'll give it an 8. I'm gonna give solid 8 is my threshold for seeing it in the
I have
theater.
a quick question. Did we all give Shaft an 8?
I gave it higher.
I may have given it higher because I had such a good time seeing that.
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, like Shaft was one of those movies.
Shaft was
a
better,
little bit
yeah.
like Bad Boys that as a film it's not much, probably like a 6 or a 7.
Yeah.
But I just had a fun time.
Yeah, it's
And I
all
had
very
more fun in that movie than Bad
Yeah,
Boys.
yeah,
Some
yeah.
people hate
Because
that movie.
well, that's because it's a lot more politically incorrect. And it's Samuel Jackson, you know.
Man.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you saw this movie, let us know what you think of it. How do you think it compares to the other 2 Bad Boys?
And the ending.
Yeah, did you like were there any jokes that you thought were particularly funny? And if you saw it, you know, let us know and like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. We will see you next time.